binge the show, get your house clean, because sometimes you just need a reset. I'm Ronnie, and you're listening to Clean With Me, the podcast where I walk you through cleaning your house step by step. Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, I am going to provide a little bit of cleaning motivation and talk you through some of the preliminary steps of a daily cleaning routine. Let's get right into the episode. It's time to gear up for our pre-cleaning session. Yes, I said pre-clean. This episode's going to be a pre-clean. You might need to listen to another episode after this, but oftentimes getting started is half the battle. So the first thing I want you to do is make sure that you freshen up and that you feel presentable for your cleaning session. Okay. And that might not make sense to you if you're not listening to this in the morning or afternoon. But if you haven't even gotten ready for the day yet, I encourage you to take a couple minutes to do whatever it takes to get you feeling presentable. This could be changing into something you feel good in. It could be running a brush through your hair, washing your face. It might even be putting on a little makeup. Whatever it is that you do that makes you feel ready for the day, or ready for someone to come to the door, or ready to run an errand, even if you're not going anywhere. Okay? It's important, even if you don't work outside the home or it's your day off, to spend a few minutes fixing yourself up. Yesterday, I was wearing a shirt that's kind of a favorite shirt, and I was going to be cooking with oil, and I didn't want to get the dreaded grease stain on my favorite shirt. So I changed into a different t-shirt that I didn't feel as good in. And then I thought, you know what? I could have just put on an apron, and that way I could have left my favorite shirt on. And while I was cooking, I was cleaning as I was going. I was doing dishes and things. And I was thinking to myself, I used to put on an apron to clean sometimes, and I haven't done that in a while. So I wanted to mention that to you as a possibility. Sometimes cleaning in an apron makes sense. When I don't want to wear anything nice is when I am scrubbing a shower or bathtub with a product that contains bleach, or maybe I'm using, bleach on the bathroom baseboards or something. And I don't just mean like a bottle of bleach. I mean something where bleach is the active ingredient. For example, I'm often cleaning my bathtub with Comet or Ajax. I would not wear a favorite shirt with an apron over it in that situation. In fact, I usually clean the bathtub or shower as I'm getting into it or out of it, and then clothing's not an issue. Hopefully you are presentable for the day. Another thing you might want to do before we start actually straightening up your house is open some curtains or blinds and let some natural light in. The other day I was cleaning my living room, and I instinctively realized that the darkness of the room wasn't doing anything for me. So I opened the blinds. And of course that led to me cleaning my blinds. But there's just something energizing about letting some light into the room, whether this is a day that you're going to clean your blinds and windowsill or not. So maybe take a minute to open some curtains and blinds throughout your house. This is going to be a whole house pre-clean. We're going to just do some things to kind of get you set up for cleaning and get you moving. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that I like to get my machines running at the beginning of a cleaning session. That's just one of those things that I call a springboard task. It builds momentum. And you're saying, Ronnie, what do you mean getting your machines running? I'm talking about your dishwasher if you have one. I'm talking about your washing machine, okay, possibly your dryer. Okay, those are the machines I'm referring to when I talk about getting those machines running. But the idea is to get your house working for you while you're cleaning. That way you can make the most of your time. And then after you've been cleaning for a while, you can do that laundry switch and sit down to fold clothes as your break. Okay. So now that you've opened up some blinds and you're up and moving, I want you to gather up any dishes from around the house. I say this all the time, but then sometimes I make the mistake myself. Yesterday I was doing dishes, got done with them, and realized there was a plate and a fork on the dining room table that someone didn't clear. So it's always best to gather things up before you begin. And if you don't have a dishwasher, that's okay. Of course, you're still going to gather up dishes from around the house and get them pre-rinsed and get them submerged. Okay. That's a stand-in for getting that first machine running. You might be the machine, I get it, but you're going to do a pre-rinse and soak, or if you have a dishwasher, you're going to do an empty reload and run of the dishwasher. Bonus points if you don't need to empty a drying rack or dishwasher before you begin, but at the same time, no judgment if you do. I like to separate the act of putting away the clean dishes from washing dishes and loading the dishwasher. Okay. And the way that I do that is when I first get up in the morning to make my coffee, I try to remember to empty the drying rack and empty the dishwasher, because that sets the stage for an easy dishwashing session after breakfast or after lunch. But there are still times where I do the empty reload and run. I walk into the kitchen and I have clean dishes to put away first. So once you've gathered up dirty dishes from around the house, I'm talking your bedroom nightstands, the edge of your bathtub. If you have like a fancy bathtub, there's probably space to put a drink and you leave the cup there. Get that to the sink. Check your coffee table, your end table, a teenager's room, your kitchen table, your dining room table if you also have a second table. Get all those dishes over to the sink area and start putting away any clean dishes, whether that means emptying your dishwasher, your drying rack, or both. Okay, because some of us use a dishwasher, but we still hand wash the larger pots and pans, or just at certain times of the day we hand wash. I mean, if your dishwasher is already running, it doesn't mean you necessarily need to let your dishes pile up or set them in the sink. You can just hand wash those items to stay at dish zero. So that's just a thought there. My husband prefers hand washing over doing an empty reload and run of the dishwasher. I tend to empty and reload the dishwasher and then hand wash the remaining items that didn't fit in the dishwasher. And I tend to keep the pots and pans out to hand wash them because I don't want to waste a lot of valuable real estate in my dishwasher. I'd rather put a bunch of small stuff in the dishwasher and then wash a couple large items. Okay. However you do it, it's time to put away your clean dishes and then pre-rinse the new load. Okay. And by pre-rinsing the new load, I mean, everybody does things differently, but for me, it means I take a scrub brush and rinse that stuff under running water. For example, I'll have a plate in my left hand and I've got a brush on a handle that I'm, scraping the plate off with my right hand with that brush. If you have a real fancy dishwasher, you might be able to put things in without doing much of a pre-clean. Okay, but for a lot of us, we've got to scrub that debris off before we put the items into the dishwasher. Okay, but if you're hand washing, you probably still do a pre-clean, because obviously if you just put dirty dishes into water and submerge them, then the water is going to be dirty. So you want to scrub them first and get them submerged. Okay. This is not a real long episode. If you're facing a disaster and you just want to get caught up on dishes, no judgment here. Just keep doing dishes for the remainder of the episode. or even switch to a different episode that's more of a focus on dishes. But I'm only going to give you a couple more minutes to either get your dishwasher loaded and maybe leave any remaining items to soak, or if you're strictly hand washing, to pre-rinse that first sink load and get it submerged. And then a little cheat method that I sometimes do when I have a lot of hand washing to do. I'll get everything into the dishwasher. I won't start it yet because I don't want to compromise my water pressure. If you know, you know. Then I will get the rest of the items pre-rinsed and submerged in the hottest possible water that comes out of my sink, along with some liquid dish detergent. But I'll also drop a dishwasher pod into the dishwater. That way I can go clean something else. And when I come back, I'm not going to have to scrub much at all because that pod did the work on the stuff that's in the sink. So, might be harder on your hands. That's the disclaimer there. But it's also a nice cheat on those rougher days. And you can always put lotion on your hands right after, they come in contact with some harsh detergent. Hopefully you're getting those dishes set up. I realize I'm not giving you enough time to just wash a ton of dishes, but this episode is about the pre-clean. It's about getting started. And a big part of that is getting your clean dishes put away and starting the first sink load or starting the dishwasher. That's what we are doing right now. Another thing you might need if you're kind of dragging is a caffeinated drink. It might be time to just take a deep breath, stop what you're doing, and fix yourself the caffeinated drink of your choice. When I first moved into this house, it was a new house, so I wanted to turn it over a new leaf and keep the new house clean, like better than I kept my previous house. You know how that is when you get something new, whether it's a car, a house, you have a higher standard, you just do. And I was a little bit down, I guess, because I had moved away from my family and I did not yet know anyone in this town. So I felt a little bit, not depressed and nothing that extreme, but I felt a little down. I felt a little bored and, nobody was going to come over. But yet I still wanted my husband to see that I had turned over a new leaf with the new house. And it was before I even started this podcast. So what I was doing is driving through Sonic. Well, it's a drive-in, but pulling into Sonic and ordering a large iced coffee with chocolate. Okay, you're probably going, that's a mocha. Yeah, but that's how you order it on the Sonic menu. It's an iced coffee with chocolate. So I later found out that had a lot of calories. Okay, but I digress. It was helping me get motivated in the mornings. Obviously, I could have made a different choice. I could have gotten an unsweet tea or something. And it wasn't, and you're thinking, well, you could have made a cup of coffee at home. Yeah, lately I'm in frugal mode, and I do usually make my coffee at home. However, there was something about getting fixed up for the day and leaving the house that really got me going, because I wasn't going to just leave my house without doing my minimums as far as my grooming. Okay. And also there's that energy burst when you go outside and you take in some sunshine. One way to duplicate that, if it's a hassle for you to leave your house, like maybe you're left without a vehicle during the day, or maybe you don't want to have to put your kid in the car seat. We're all in different situations and different seasons of life. Sometimes just taking out your trash can get you walking outside and give you that burst of sunlight that you need to feel energized. And sometimes a homemade coffee or iced tea can help with that too. And I know not everybody does caffeine, okay, but just throwing that out there as a possible way to get motivated. And another thing is just to start small and focus on one room at a time to avoid feeling overwhelmed. That's what we're doing in this episode. We're doing a pre-clean in each area of your home, but we're doing it one room at a time. Okay, in the kitchen, it was getting the dishes going. The other thing I want you to do before we leave the kitchen is just straighten up the countertops. Put away those items that are out of place, whether it's seasonings and cereal boxes. For some reason, those are the things at my house, or something else, fast food containers that need to get tossed. I don't know what's on your kitchen counters, but let's get those items put away. And if there are things that belong in another room, quickly take them there, but don't get sidetracked when you leave the room. Come right back to the kitchen. Okay, the point is to declutter your countertops as part of your pre-clean, because later you're going to be cleaning the surfaces of your home. When you come back to finish the dishes, you're going to be wiping down your countertops. And it's going to be so much easier with the obstacles already removed. And speaking of motivation, removing visual clutter is huge. When you feel overwhelmed about cleaning your house, it's not because of the dust or the grime. It is likely because of the visual clutter. It's because of the pre-clean. Once that pre-clean is behind you, you can put on some music and clean the surfaces quickly. I'm here to talk you through the tedious parts. And I do have episodes where, we're actually scrubbing surfaces. I want to get you through clearing the clutter that's overwhelming you, the visual clutter. Okay, by now you've cleared off your countertops in the kitchen. Let's move on to your outer areas. And by outer areas, I mean your entryway, your living room, your hallway, maybe a family room if you have another living area. Okay, those common areas of your home other than the kitchen, bathroom, a bedroom used as an office. I'm talking about those front rooms and entryway. Okay, let's straighten up those areas in order of priority. The first thing I always do is pick up anything that's out of place on the floor. Okay, sometimes I walk out and I walk out of my room in the morning and there's fuzz in my living room because one of the dogs has shredded another dog toy. Okay. I'm not into buying these dog stuffed animals, but my daughter doesn't mind buying little cheap stuffed animals from like dollar stores and stuff that they end up tearing up. I'm more into buying them like shin bones to chew on so that they're not making a mess. Anyway, I would pick that up first because it would drive me crazy, or just a piece of trash that ended up on the floor. Okay. And then next, those are the most egregious things I'd pick up. Next, I would put away any shoes that got left out, or maybe a sweater that's draped over the couch. It's summertime, so there's not as much of that. Another thing that I do is I straighten the throw pillows. We've got like a sofa and love seat, and it came with, 4 throw pillows, 2 for each couch. I straighten those, put those how they go. Sometimes you have to straighten the actual couch cushions themselves if they're knocked out of place. Then I have a blanket that's draped over one of the couches. I straighten that up. Okay, I basically just get the floor vacuum ready by picking everything up, and then I turn my attention to the upper surfaces. Usually there are not any items on our couches, but oftentimes there are a few things on the coffee table. Empty plastic water bottles, for example. I clear off the coffee table next. So once I've done all that, the room still needs to be dusted and vacuumed, but this is just a pre-clean. Okay. And the next thing I'll do, and just obviously adapt this to your own house and be picking up. The next thing I'll do is I'll pick up the hallway. And this step can be pretty quick. Sometimes it feels like it's going to be a lot of work to pick up a room, but you've got to just jump in and do it. Just get started. It's not that hard. You're going to be bending, or if you're feeling really lazy, you might be picking up items with your foot. Okay. If you don't want to bend over. But the point is just to be moving and picking up. And just think how nice it's going to be to go through and wipe down all of your surfaces and then vacuum or sweep and mop if you have hard floors throughout, or maybe you use a vacuum on the hard floors. For those of you who are parents, have you ever noticed if you tell a kid to like pick up a room, they're like, oh man. But then if you tell them like, hey, can you wipe down this table or whatever? It's like the table's already clear and you're asking them to wipe down surfaces. They're like, sure, okay. I think as adults, we're the same way. We don't like the pre-cleaning, but once we get that over with, I mean, the cleaning happens so quickly. And in a lot of these episodes, be cleaning your outer areas, while I talk pre-cleaning, tidying up, if you will. But in a lot of these episodes, I have you do all of the steps to cleaning your room. I have you do the pre-clean. Then I have you wipe surfaces. But sometimes it's nice to do the whole house at once. All of the pre-cleaning and then all of the deep surface cleaning. And I like to mix it up for you. Okay? So in this episode, we're not dusting your living area surfaces. We're just getting them ready for that. Hopefully you've had enough time to pick up your living areas. Let's move on to your bathrooms. Okay? This should be super fast. I just want you to pick up the bathroom floor. If there's a towel on the floor or somebody's clothing or a mascara that got dropped on the floor, pick up the bathroom floors in both bathrooms if you have a couple bathrooms. Make sure there's toilet paper on the roll. Make sure there's a clean hand towel. And just straighten up the bathroom. Maybe put a curling iron away or confine your makeup items into a drawer or a tray, just to kind of corral the clutter. Just think about what you would do in a bathroom if you had like a 2-minute warning that your friend was going to stop by and use the bathroom, and just do that minimum. This is not a deep clean, and do it in both bathrooms. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do that. And then, of course, I'll have you head to a bedroom that you're responsible for. While you're finishing up in the bathroom, I just wanted to talk a little bit about containers, partly due to a request I received from a listener who's a financial supporter. But in your bathroom, if you are struggling to keep things put away, or it's taking you too much time to prep the bathroom for a deep cleaning, you may need some containers, okay? Whether it's a little dish for jewelry and things like that, or a plastic box or basket, maybe for your curling irons and brushes, and whether that container is going in the cupboard under the sink or on the countertop itself or on the back of the toilet tank, or wherever it's going, you may need a container. And you might not even need to buy something. You could have something somewhere in your house. Maybe you have a plastic box that was originally intended for use in your kitchen pantry, but there's nothing in it, and that could go in the bathroom or whatever. But being able to quickly clear a surface by putting things into a tray, basket, or other container can make it much easier to keep your house clean. It just makes it faster. And the question I got was about work from home equipment, like your laptop, your cords, printers, things like that. Sometimes with the laptop and its charger and maybe your notepad and a pen, maybe a headset, you want to have some type of portable container. When I was working a full-time job from home, I have this canvas box with handles. They're kind of like holes in the side of it where you can pick it up almost like a purse, but it's a canvas box. And then it has like little pockets on the outside where you could put pens and things. I would often put my laptop charger and other items in there when I was heading out to the RV to kind of work where it's quiet, because I wasn't always working in the same place. And a lot of people, not everybody works in the same place every day. Sometimes your schedule looks a little different. You're not alone in the house, and you need to move somewhere quiet. having something to put all of your work stuff in, can be helpful. And I mean, it could be a briefcase or a tote bag with a compartment for a laptop, but it could also be a box. I used that box more when I was at home because with a box, you can easily reach in and get things out. Whereas with a laptop case, you're kind of stuffing things in and there's not as much room. I was more likely to use the case for traveling, but this box with handles for moving my stuff around the house. So if someone in your family works from home and they're, let's say, working at the dining room table or whatever, you might want a convenient place to put that stuff so that you can maybe move it to another location when you're serving dinner at the table. I mean, that's one solution. The other solution is to keep the workstation confined to just one place setting of the table. My daughter often does artwork at the dining room table, and I tell her just keep your little setup confined to one place setting, because if she just has her stuff in one little spot at one end of the table, we can still sit around the table for a meal. So kind of the same thing applies to workstations. The more containers you have, the better. It just kind of goes back to that whole thing where when you have fewer obstacles, it's easier to spray and wipe down a surface. So having a box or a tray for things and then moving it out of the way to clean can streamline your cleaning routine. By now, you've probably straightened up your bathrooms. It's time to go to a bedroom that you're responsible for. Unless there's somebody sleeping in the bed, quickly make the bed and pick up the floor and get it vacuum ready. You probably already went into the room when you were gathering up dishes. So the main thing you need to do is just clear the floor. Pick up those shoes, clothes, whatever other random items are lurking in your room. Quickly get it picked up. And maybe there are some items that you don't really want to make a decision about. They're kind of slowing you down. We're like, wait, what do I do with this? If that's the case, place the item on your freshly made bed, because the important thing here is getting your floor picked up, getting the room vacuum or sweep ready. Then afterward, you can decide what to do with those items on your bed. Put them away before you go to bed, that type of thing. But I want you to quickly pick up the floor. If you did not get your machine running, I think I at least alluded to that at the beginning of the episode about getting your washing machine running or dryer running. I don't think I specifically asked you to do it. I know I alluded to it, but maybe you need to start a load of laundry. Maybe instead of making your bed, you need to strip the bedding and get that washing. Or maybe while you're picking up your bedroom, you are gathering up some dirty laundry, and it might be a good idea to get that into the washing machine. Okay, so it might be time to start a load of laundry. If not, just keep picking up your bedroom floor. Your bedroom might be a huge mess. Sometimes there's a tendency to just kind of stash things in your bedroom and keep the front areas of your house presentable. And maybe you've been doing that, so you feel a little bit overwhelmed, like your bedroom needs a lot more time than just a couple minutes. But you would be surprised how much you can pick up when you're just kind of dividing things into categories. You're throwing away trash, those empty plastic water bottles. You're putting dirty clothes into a hamper, whether it's a hamper in your room or a laundry basket in your room or a hamper in the laundry room. You're dealing with that dirty laundry. You're hanging up a couple items that somehow ended up on your floor when you were in a hurry and couldn't figure out what to wear, and they're still clean. You're hanging those up. Picking up your bedroom floor can be done either systematically by starting in one corner and then just kind of, working your way around the room. Let's face it, a lot of bedrooms, the floor space is kind of a horseshoe shape around the bed. Start at one corner, work your way around. That's one way to do it. The other way is to kind of pick it up in layers. Like, let's deal with all the trash. Let's deal with all the laundry. Let's deal with the shoes. Maybe there's a category for pet toys or just kids' toys, other things that end up in your room. Miscellaneous things. things that you're storing on the floor that don't need to be there, but you're not sure what to do with them, and you're putting them on the bed for now. But I want you to get that bedroom vacuum or sweep ready, because after this episode, you're going to head back to your kitchen, finish any dishes that you left to soak. You're going to go through your house wiping down surfaces, wiping down your countertops, cleaning out your sink, dusting your furniture, giving your toilet seat a swipe with maybe a disinfectant wipe, and with another wipe, cleaning the countertop and sink, or paper towels and a cleaning spray, whatever. Maybe touching up your bathroom mirror with a glass cleaner and a microfiber cloth. Basically going through your house, wiping down the upper surfaces, table, vanity, countertop, and then you're going to vacuum and or sweep and mop. So finish picking up your room so that you can move on to cleaning the surfaces. And maybe if you're like me, like to blare some music on a Bluetooth speaker while you're just kind of doing a sweep of your entire house as far as, surfaces are concerned. By the way, special thanks to my financial supporters who support the show either on Patreon, Spotify, Apple, or some other way. Not only are you unlocking bonus episodes that get you on the full program of keeping your house clean, but you're also helping me out, and I appreciate that more than you know. I hope your bedroom's looking good. I hope your whole house is picked up. I hope you're going to continue and do the finishing touches after this. And I encourage you, if you still have the time and energy, listen to another episode. Binge the show, get your house clean, because sometimes you just need a reset. And then it's going to be easier to keep your house clean. But even if this is all you got done today, your house is looking tidy. But just remember, when you dust and vacuum, it makes your house look clean. And then you kind of get credit for all that tidying you did. So if possible, put on those finishing touches by cleaning your upper and lower surfaces. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, happy cleaning. I'll talk to you in the next episode.